If a client or a viewer says, you know what, I have a medium-sized company and I'm interested in this, how would they could reach out to somebody like you? What would the initial engagement look like? What would the process look like? Where would you start with the process?
First of all, I make a short training.
Yeah.
Okay, to get an understanding. It's like not a big deal, 2-3 days to get an understanding about design thinking.
Go through the framework, just kind of give the child a name so that people can communicate about the subject and have are somewhat on eye level when it comes to discussing individual steps.
There we go. Get an understanding about the tools, about methods, and also gives time for some self-reflection, and also like to give time for self-learning later on.
Yeah.
And then we start with the problem.
Well, I think what's good, and you and I do this very often, regardless of what training we do, we often make the seminar a workshop. So you can actually use the seminar as a first kickstart.
Definitely.
To start selecting problems on a higher level, right?
Yes, definitely.
So they can kind of, in the experience, say, this really works on real life examples.
Yeah, it's look and feel and also train on checking out. Definitely. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, and then we start with the understanding phase. What's the problem? What are the facts and figures? How can we set up a team that works on that? Who are potential users? How can we actually plan and select interviews? How can we go forward? How can we get the ideas? But
what you're addressing here is really important. I mean, a client, if they really feel like they've understood it, could follow that process up themselves. But in our personal experience, we found out that a lot of clients need a certain mentorship, right? It's one thing to hear about it first time, but it's another thing to really get the feeling, hey, can I test drive it? So what you generally do is you have an entry seminar, and then you do regular
guidance and facilitation of workshops, and to have this outside view to, like, very often you're in your inner circle, no, this doesn't work, we never did like this, and so on. And our job then is to say, right, hey, let's give it a try. Let's go for it. Have you considered this? So you're also part of this creativity process, actually. So one can actually hire you not just as a process expert who guides through the creative process. We can also hire you as an innovation manager, right? Yes. For those of us, and we both have to hear this very often. We'll often be asked, "What are you consultants? Consultants in what?" And we're going all sorts of stuff, but primarily this or that. And they say, in what industry? And we'll say, pick one. And the people kind of look at you like, how can you be innovative in telecommunication and pharma? You're not an expert in either, are you? Farming?
Pharmaceutical.
Pharmaceutical.
Yeah. Or farming also could be.
Farming I am.
Yeah.
Pharmaceutical not. No, but it's about guiding the process. Yeah. It's about empowering and enabling that creativity happens. It's about selective listening or active listening and say, right, we can take this idea, maybe combine it with this idea, come up with a third one. Have you ever thought about this? So it's really being putting lines together and facilitating that seeds are growing and spreading actually.
And you have the benefit that since you're not stuck in that culture, and you can ask the stupid questions that other people won't ask.
There you go. I don't know what doesn't work.
Yeah, often we through simple and stupid questions have can offer really innovative, because we're not encumbered by, there's no boundaries for us on a way of thinking.
Yes, and that's what I said with think like there is no box, that also like existing rules and regulations and laws through this creativity process, they are not valid. Yeah. Because maybe then we find a great solution and then later on find ways on how to still solve it.
Not only that, I also think one of the benefits of good consultants is they have points of references from many different industries. Not all of them translate, but some of the greatest ideas you can copy from other people. That's also a form of innovation. Yeah. Okay. Are there books that you would recommend?
Yes.
Thanks. See ya.
So yes, Mark.
By the way, we don't owe shares in this book. We don't get paid for it. When we recommend books, we've either written them or we actually really believe, and we also think they're valuable, right? Yeah. So
I mean, quite a good one is the Design Thinking Playbook. Mm-hmm. I mean, this series of Wiley's general.
Yeah, they're good.
Quite a good one. There's a German one. It's called the Design Thinking Handbuch, which is like the compendium of design thinking. Yeah. There's another one. If you just look it up, it's called Service Design Thinking. Okay. Because very often thing is people say, right, I don't have products to sell, but the main idea works with services. Yeah. It works internally.
So that's really important. Don't get stuck on, design thinking is not just about the product, it's about the service experience as well.
Service experience, customer experience, employee experience. onboarding process, recruiting processes, offboarding processes.
Quite honestly, you can include your executives and your senior managers in the experience as well, because if the bottom two levels work, it should be the win-win-win situation where I've got better revenues, I've got less costs, I've got less headaches, I've got happier employees, I've got less turnover, I've got less rework, I've got less quality issues, right? Okay. Classical question when it comes to new or relative, because this has been around for conceptually since the beginning of humanity. Formally, the first preliminary background of it was in the 1960s. By the way, a lot of people might ask themselves the questions, well, if it came up in the 60s, why did it take so long to become mainstream? Because that's often, it has to go through so many mental resistance until it's accepted. It gets past the critical mass. Is there a certificate for this? Do I need a certification for this?
You don't need a certification. There are a lot of trainings, of course, like we offer. And at the end of the day, it's also about designing your toolbox, because there are thousands of tools around which are all existing already. It's about picking the best tools on how to understand your customer, your user. It's about picking and selecting the best tools on creativity tools and designing the best fitting toolbox. That's in our job to support and guide which tools do fit best. So yes, there are trainings around. There are some universities offering some master classes on that.
I think we have a similar attitude towards certification. I think certification principally is a valuable concept, but what's more important than the certification is that you learn something and you know how to use it.
Yes.
I think
and not only know how to use it, that you use it.
Yeah. So the certificate is kind of an add-on, it's kind of the cherry on top of the cake. I think there's an inflation of certifications out there. Some of them are valuable. I think it's enough that you pick this up. The things that always comes up, I think hopefully we've created attention and interest and desire to say, hey, this is an important process. It should be integrated. But the question is, it's everybody's job and no job. Who does it? Because my experience is when people say we should do this, my first question is who's we?
Yep.
So who's responsible for design thinking?
As you said, it's a very cross-functional topic anyway. Very often it's somehow either there is a so-called innovation unit,
change or business excellence,
exactly, like a staff position very often. Or very often companies start with a project. So they build up an interdisciplinary team from all different functions. They nominate one who's leading the whole show. And then we start with a half-year design first start project. And then step by step, it's going to be established most of the time either in HR or in organizational development or in the strategic department to really drive the organization at the end of the day.
So what you're saying, it's like a football team, like soccer, right? There's multiple players, right? And you can have one designated player that kind of drives it, but in your experience, it's often a business analyst, a project manager, a product manager?
It's a project or product manager who runs it.
Okay.
Or also very often strategic people.
Yeah.
So that really are responsible to drive the organization forward.
My personal, and I have the same discussion when it comes to business analysis. My main thing I tell project managers is you should be interested in what happens before your project and what happens afterwards.
Yes.
First of all, it secures your career because your career shouldn't be contingent on when a project begins and when it ends. Design thinking is important to get into those stages before a project.
And as you said in the beginning, after me the flooding doesn't work here.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's not part of the concept.
Okay, good. We have a tradition of asking my wonderful, lovely team if they have any questions. Rico, Nelly, do you have any questions?
And then we are still not done, but after the questions, it's good.
Is there a point?
No, it's
okay.
Fun one.
Okay, so the question from Nelly was, and it's a very interesting question, I think. How do you do the design thinking playbook? Because I like the word here. It says playbook, right? How do I apply the playbook to services or products that have an emotional component? For example, burial services. I don't know, the IRS when you have to pay your taxes, or I don't know, going to jail. I don't know. That's an extreme example. But can you apply it, and how would you apply it?
Yes, of course you can apply. You would maybe have a more empathic look on which methods to select. So maybe doing an interview during the burial, the ceremony maybe might not the number one method to do. But still, you can make interviews afterwards. You can make observations. You can ask stakeholders who are part of that. And again, same concept and same ideas. There are needs and feelings, like at the funeral, being safe, getting good memories, but still not, I don't know, whatever there is, there are still needs, pains, and also gains at the end of the day, which can be used. And if we run now a design thinking project, yes, there are ways on how I can get those emotions and feelings and pain points.
I think